Hey friends, my name is Matt. I'm the youth and family pastor at Cornerstone Church in Marshfield, and I'm here today with your Cornerstone Connection, a daily devotional. Just a quick reminder, we're working our way through a Bible reading plan through the New Testament. We're actually using a Bible reading plan in the YouVersion Bible app, put on by the Bible Project, which is a great ministry in and of itself. Let me encourage you, if you don't have anything, any sort of Bible reading plan as part of your personal worship plan, join us. Go to our website, find the Bible reading plan icon, click it, and join us. It's not too late to join us. Please do. Well, as we jump into Mark chapter 7 today, halfway through, because yesterday it was covered in a different way. The first half of Mark 7 was covered. I'm going to cover the second half. So we're going to be in verses 14 through 23. But before I get to reading that, I just got to tell you a very quick story. I'll never forget, I was a young bachelor. I was renting an apartment in a triplex. So this house was made up of 3 separate apartments. And I was a young bachelor in my young 20s. And so I was just kind of learning how to live life. I went out grocery shopping and I was putting away my groceries. And for whatever reason, I decided to take all this raw chicken that I bought. I decided to take it out of its packages, put it in a huge Ziploc bag, and then stuff that thing in the freezer. The problem and mistake that I made was I took the trays and the plastic that was wrapping this raw chicken, and I decided to shove it in my garbage can, and then I decided to leave for like a day, day and a half for some sort of trip. I couldn't tell you what it was. But there's one thing that I won't forget, and you already know what it is. I returned from that trip, and I remember walking in the front door of that triplex, and I could smell it. I could smell, the staunch, nasty smell of raw chicken that had sat in a garbage can at room temperature for a day, day and a half. And I felt so bad because there is, of course, 2 other tenants here in this house. And there's no doubt that they also smelt that over time as well. And so putting that raw chicken juice or whatever you want to call it into this garbage can at room temperature was the wrong move, because what came out of that garbage can was this absolutely nasty smell that I just absolutely can't take. Well, Jesus, in a way, kind of talks about this. In Matthew chapter 7, verses 14 to 23, he doesn't talk about raw chicken, but he talks about what we put into us and what comes out of us. Because he's talking about this group, the Pharisees, who, according to everybody and to themselves, they had everything going on. Everything between them and God was good by all appearances. But Jesus wanted to make something clear, not only to them, but also to the crowds that were listening. Here's what he says. Join me in verse 14. It says, "Again, Jesus called the crowd to him and said, 'Listen to me, everyone, and understand this. Nothing outside a man can make him unclean by going into him. Rather, it is what comes out of a man that makes him unclean.' After he had left the crowd and he entered the house, his disciples asked him about this parable. 'Are you so dull?' he asked. 'Don't you see that nothing that enters a man from the outside can make him unclean? For it doesn't go into his heart, but into his stomach, and then out of his body.' In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. He went on, 'What comes out of a man is what makes him unclean. For from within, out of men's hearts, comes evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and make him unclean.'" Now, I think what I want to mainly do for us today is just bring some really good clarity, because I think sometimes we read this and we think, okay, so Jesus is kind of referring to everything. Like, it doesn't matter what I take into me. That's not going to make me unclean, if you will. Well, Jesus is specifically talking about food, because in that day, in their Jewish faith, there were certain foods that were deemed unclean, and how you ate them also mattered. And did you go through your ritual cleanliness in order to make sure that you're not unclean while you eat? And so these things that they did physically had spiritual repercussions. And so if you ate an unclean food, you would be spiritually unclean. And so this was a problem. And Jesus is making clear with the people there that the food you eat doesn't matter, because that food just goes to your stomach and then it goes out of you. And it doesn't make you spiritually unclean with God. But it doesn't mean that Jesus is saying everything that goes into you doesn't matter. I mean, let's be honest. The shows we watch, whether that be on Netflix or on YouTube channels or wherever we watch our TV, the music we listen to, the people we talk to, the conversations that we have, the news channels that we follow, whatever is coming into us, whatever's coming into our eyes, our ears, our minds, our hearts, there's no doubt that those things, as they go in, they have an effect on our heart, on our minds, and it also has an effect on what comes out of us. And so I want us to be extremely careful as we look at what Jesus talks about in Mark chapter 7, that yes, the food you eat does not make you spiritually unclean. That is absolutely true. But let's guard our hearts, as Proverbs talks about, and let's have our minds continually transformed and renewed, as Romans 12 talks about, by the Word of God and by the Spirit. Let's not allow our minds and our hearts to be transformed by this world, by news mediums, by social media, by gossip, by any of this kind of stuff. Let's not allow that to taint what God through Christ has made clean. So, friends, I hope, as it is for me, let me tell you, it is for me. Let me just pray and hope that this is an encouragement to you, but it's also a challenge. If there's anything in life that is coming into you, that is causing just some nastiness to happen here and come out of you, let me encourage you, guard the gate and allow the Spirit to convict you and to bring change. And may that be encouragement. Friends, have a great day. We'll see you next time on the Cornerstone Connection.